I, along with my fiance HP, own 17 car sharing cars. If you include our personal vehicles, then we own 20. And if you include the RVs that we own, then we have 22 vehicles in our fleet. And by far, hands down, the most common question that I get asked is, where do we store all of our cars? And though I did address this in a video about a year ago, I wanted to make an update video because my fleet has grown pretty substantially, and I have learned some different and new tactics that you can use in order to secure your own vehicle storage. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly where I store my 22 cars, how much it costs me, how I secured this parking, and of course, how you guys can do the exact same thing, and some of my best tips and tricks that I have. So let's get started. Now, like I mentioned a moment ago, I own 22 cars. Between personal cars, RVs, and car sharing vehicles, we have 22 cars to account for. And no, we don't have a massive house with a massive garage. We don't have a commercial lot or a commercial warehouse. And our storage solution is actually much easier and much more simple than you would think it would be. You see, 3 of these 22 cars are HP and I's personal vehicle. We have my 1997 Toyota 4Runner, HP's 1996 Ford Ranger, and HP's 2020 Shelby GT500. The 4Runner and the Shelby are stored in our 2-car garage, and the Ford Ranger is stored outside in the driveway. This doesn't cost us any money because it's at our personal residence. We also have 2 recreational vehicles. We have a 29-foot RV and we have a 2015 camper van conversion. The camper van conversion currently is in our backyard as it's finishing its construction, but that's actually going to be moved to a storage facility in the next couple of weeks. Then we have our 29-foot RV, which is stored at a dedicated RV storage facility. This costs about $150 per month, which is kind of a lot, but it does include the proper storage for an RV. It's gated and secured. It has 24/7 security. It has a dump station as well as a washing station. So though it is a bit pricier than I would like it to be, it does come with a handful of convenient perks. And then we have our 17 other vehicles, which we store at a parking lot where we rent out 4 parking spots. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. 4 parking spaces, 17 cars, the math isn't adding up. But it actually does. You see, if you're doing Turo correctly, your cars should be pretty well utilized, and they should be spending the bulk of their time out on rentals rather than sitting at your parking lot. Because of that, even though we have 17 cars that are getting rented out, we only actually need 4 spaces. And we've found that over the years, 4 spaces is more than enough for our storage needs. And for us specifically, our parking spaces aren't really used for vehicle storage, more so than they're used for vehicle handoffs and key exchanges. We use our parking spots for a way for our guests to easily and conveniently pick up our cars rather than for a place for us to store our cars while they're not getting rented out. If we do have an instance where a car needs to be sitting, it's getting repaired, it's getting fixed, or for whatever reason it can't be rented out, we will move that car from our storage lot and instead take it to our house. We'll either park it in front of our house in the street or on our driveway. For our parking lot, we pay $200 per month, which comes out to $50 per space. Now, when it comes to storage, there were a handful of things that I know I looked for whenever I was trying to find a storage solution for our cars. And there were 3 things that I prioritized over everything else. First and foremost was my convenience. It might sound selfish, it might sound like a bad idea, but in my opinion, I think that this is the #1 thing to prioritize whenever you are trying to figure out how you're going to store and keep your vehicles. How convenient is it for you? The reality is, if you store your cars at an inconvenient location for you, Turo becomes less sustainable, less attractive, and less passive. Making Turo as passive and sustainable as possible was my #1 priority, and as a result, I prioritized my convenience when finding a storage lot. I wanted something that was relatively close to where I lived and something that I could have easy access to throughout the day. Because of this, whenever I was looking for parking lots, I really only looked for areas that were within 2 to 3 miles of where I live. This really helped me narrow down my search results, and it made the search for a parking lot much less cumbersome and much less daunting. But convenience for you as a host isn't the only thing you should prioritize. You should also prioritize convenience for the guest, but not in the way that you probably think. Now, I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to Turo hosts that thoroughly believe that you have to be close to an airport in order to be successful. And I'm not not gonna lie, being close to an airport absolutely helps and it will increase your Turo demand. But you do not have to be close to an airport in order to have a successful Turo business. For me personally, I have 2 airports within a 30-minute drive of me, and I don't deliver to either of them. And anybody that rents one of my cars from the airport needs to expect to take a 30-minute Uber to my location. And more than enough people do that. For some people, being close to an airport just isn't feasible. And in my case, it would take too much time, too much energy, and too much effort to accommodate to airport location pickups. And because of this, I've never offered it. This is a perfect example of me prioritizing my own convenience over the convenience of the guest. But there are other ways where I do prioritize the convenience of the guest in order to make a streamlined and efficient experience. Number 1 is having your locations in a very easy to find area. One thing that I've learned with Turo is that no matter how many detailed instructions you give to your guests, no matter how conveniently located your location is, people will still have trouble finding it. If your location is even a little difficult to find, you will be bombarded with emails, messages, and phone calls from guests telling you that they can't find their car. Wherever you store your cars, wherever that may be, I recommend that you try to dummy-proof that as much as possible. Have it be easy to find, well lit, easy to pick out. Have your car visible in wherever storage facility you have it. You need to try to make it as dummy-proof as possible, otherwise you will run into problems. In the case of my lot, it's very well lit, it's next to a major road, and it's pretty well populated. That way guests can find it easily, whether in the daytime or at night, and whenever they're there, they feel like they're safe. In addition to making sure that my location is relatively easy to find, I also include photos of the map and screenshots of where my location is. That way people have a visual representation of what they need to be looking for. But these aren't the only things that you should consider. My third thing to keep in mind is what resources and tools you need to have access to with your Turo fleet. And whenever you're choosing a location to store your cars, keep this in mind. My car sharing lot is located very close to my house where HP checks in and maintains the cars. It's located very close to our partner shop, which is the shop that works on our cars in case of a major issue. We have 3 different gas stations within the same block, which makes it super convenient for our guests to refill, but also for us to refill the cars as well. We have 2 different car washes less than 5 minutes away, and we have an O'Reilly's and an AutoZone about a minute's drive. This has made our systems, our processes, and our procedures incredibly streamlined and incredibly efficient. Because we can drive 5 minutes in any direction and find every single resource we need in order to get our cars ready for the next rental. Now, I understand that this isn't doable for everyone. You can't necessarily check all of the boxes with your location, and to an extent, we just got lucky. But I do think that if you're somebody who's looking for a new Turo or car sharing lot, finding one that at least has a gas station and a car wash close to it is something that's gonna be really helpful. I would encourage you to sit down and prioritize what's important to you, whether it be close to your house, close to a shop, close to a car wash, or close to a gas station, and then figure out where you want to store your cars based off of those preferences. Now, you will quickly find that once you figure out what you need to prioritize for yourself, for your guest, and for your processes and system, your options will be much more limited and it will be much easier to find a good spot for your fleet. But in case you still don't know where to go from here are some recommendations on where I would go and what I would look into if you're looking for a storage solution. First is your free options, and these are ones that you should absolutely utilize until you can't utilize them any longer. Things like train stations or public transport stations. Here in DFW, we have the DART. This oftentimes has free parking in the DART, and this could be a really great place to store your cars. Of course, you'll want to make sure to move them around and be discreet about it, but this could be a really cool option to look into. Another option is public parking or street parking. These are obviously not ideal because you do have to be more discreet with it and you need to put more effort into maintaining that discreetness. But if you are a Turo host that's wanting to save money, this is definitely a viable option to pursue. Another route could be your house, though I typically don't recommend this for a few different reasons. First and foremost is safety. I personally don't want my Turo guests to know where I live for security reasons. Another issue is your neighbors. You'll definitely want to maintain a relationship with your neighbors that's positive, because I have heard of dozens and dozens of Turo hosts that have gotten in trouble with the law because their neighbors got angry that they were running a business out of their house. You want to make sure to be respectful of your neighbors, and once you start storing cars at your house and people are coming and going, it definitely gets irritating very quick. And I can see the neighbor's perspective on that. If these free options aren't an option for you, you, then a secondary option could be office parks. And this is something that I did for a long time. Office parks have a ton of parking and they're typically pretty accessible, pretty well lit, and very easy to find. Especially in the realm of people working from home, there are way too many office parks out there and there are a lot of parking spaces that aren't being utilized. You could contact the office manager, ask them if they would be interested in leasing a handful of spaces, and then see how much they would charge. Of course, how much you would be charged would be dependent on where you're located, the office manager, and a wide variety of other factors. And my final recommendation is retail centers. And this is probably, in my opinion, the best route to pursue. It's what I personally do, and I found a lot of success with it. Retail centers already have the things that you're looking for: accessibility, well lit, and population. This is going to help prevent people from breaking into your cars. It's going to make your cars more secure because people are coming and going, and it's going to make your guests feel more safe, and it's going to be easy for the guests to find your car. Approaching these retail centers directly, either the owner of the centers or the business owners that own businesses in the center, contacting them and saying, hey, would you be interested in leasing out 4 or 5 spaces? I'll pay you $250 per month. Here are the benefits. Here's what I can do for you. You would be surprised at how many of these owners will say yes. And of course, there are a slew of other options as well that you can pursue, whether it be airport-focused parking, business park parking, whether it be parking in a city in a parking garage. There are a lot of different resources that you can take advantage of in order to store your vehicles properly. But I will say that based off of my experience, you can get the best deals in the best locations by simply forming relationships with different business owners. I think all in all, this is an issue that many new Turo hosts overcomplicate. Don't overcomplicate the issue of storing your cars, because if you're running your business properly, storage won't really be an issue at all. But if you're wanting to find a parking solution for somewhere where you can store your cars when they're not getting rented out, I would encourage you to reach out to either office parks or retail centers. I think that that is going to be your best bet if you're not somebody who's wanting to go to the airport. But with that being said, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.